Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and honestly, maybe double check that your front door is actually locked tonight. I'm not even kidding. I had to check mine twice before sitting down to record, because the stories I have lined up for us tonight genuinely gave me the chills while I was prepping them. My skin was honestly crawling, so I figured, why suffer alone? We should just dive right in together. Oh, by the way, if you have a creepy experience of your own, like a weird encounter or just something you can't explain, definitely send it over to the email in the screen right now. I'm always looking for new stories, and I'd love to read yours on the channel. If you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you hanging out with us, so hit that subscribe button if you like the vibe. But, alright, I'll stop rambling, and let's get right into the first story.
I was 22 when I worked at the mall. Oftentimes it would be pitch black by the time I made it to the bus stop. The area was always crawling with creeps and sketchy people, but for the most part, they left me alone. They stayed in their own world, and I stayed in mine. But one night, I was walking out a little later than usual. Through the darkness, I noticed a truck parked near the curb. A man was standing there talking to a girl who looked like she was only in her teens. At first, I thought nothing of it. A lot of teenagers worked in the food court, and on weekends their shifts ran late. I honestly assumed it was just her dad picking her up. But as I got closer, I could see she was visibly upset. I figured they were just having a family argument. As I sat down at the bench, the man looked up at me, his eyes flashing with sudden anger. He turned back to the girl and said, "Hey, honey, you should come home with me now. Mom is worried." The girl slowly backed away from him. That's when I looked up and caught her eye. She was staring at me with a face full of pure terror. Right then, the smell hit me. He reeked of heavy liquor, though he wasn't stumbling. Suddenly, my stomach sank. Something was horribly wrong. The bus wasn't scheduled to arrive for another 30 minutes, and I was just a small 5-foot-tall woman myself. The terrifying realization washed over me. This man was not her father. He stepped closer to her. "Come on, honey, let's get in the truck. Get in the truck right now. It's late." I didn't know for absolute certain what was happening, but I knew I had to do something. I looked past the man, right at the girl, and forced a smile. "Hey, wow, I haven't seen you in such a long time." I immediately started chatting her up, like an old friend. Catching on, she walked right past him and sat down next to me, completely ignoring his commands. The man was visibly furious. He stormed back over to his truck, and for a second I thought he was leaving. While his back was turned, the girl leaned in and whispered frantically. He wasn't her father. She had no idea who he was, and he was trying to kidnap her. I whispered back, "Okay, just act natural. Keep refusing him." But the man came right back. This time he had a phone pressed to his ear and a metal pipe gripped in his other hand. "Okay, dummy," he snapped at her. "Get in the truck. Your mom is pissed. And lady, you need to mind your own business between a parent and child." I looked him dead in the eye. "You are clearly not her father. You need to leave before the security cameras capture you doing something illegal." He blinked, looking around as if he just realized the cameras were there. But he had already gone too far to back down. He lunged forward, grabbed the girl by her arm, and began dragging her toward his truck. She screamed and struggled. I threw myself into the mix, trying to push him off her, but he shoved back, yelling, "Don't get between a father and daughter." During the struggle, I glanced up at the mall entrance. Through the glass window, I saw a mall security guard looking out at us. He mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" I violently shook my head and mouthed back, "No." The guard instantly sprung into action, unlocking the door and pulling out his phone to call the police. The creepy man saw the guard coming. Realizing the game was up, he finally let go of the girl, threw out a string of curses, jumped into his truck, and sped off into the night. The poor girl was completely shattered, sobbing uncontrollably. Her real parents arrived not long after the police did. I gave the officers my statement, left my phone number, and finally went home. I'm so incredibly thankful I was there that night. I never saw that man again, and I shudder to think about what would have happened to that young girl if I hadn't intervened. I later found out she was only 15 years old. The most chilling part. At one point during the confrontation, he even tried to convince me that I was his daughter too. When I was 19, I moved from Oregon to Florida to be with my boyfriend at the time. I was thinking white sand beaches and Mickey Mouse, but instead, I got the swamp, bugs, and dirt roads. We lived in this little town called Hawthorne, just outside of Gainesville. It has a legit one stoplight and maybe 4 stores. Dollar General, Steve's Market, Eckerd's Pharmacy, and Sonny's Barbecue. Whoopee. Anyway, I got a job at the defunct Eckerd's in the middle of town. It was next to the grocery store, so everyone shopped there. After about 3 months or so of working there, I walked in to start my shift one day, and the manager pulled me into his office. Laid out on his desk was about 30 to 40 open letters, all addressed by hand to me. "Do you know this person?" my manager asked. "No," I said, and he told me to read one. So I picked the cheerful yellow one. Inside were 2 handwritten letters and a magazine cutout of a woman with long blonde hair, just like me. As my manager watched on, I read the letter. I skipped around a lot in confusion, desperately trying to find out why I'm even in this room. From what I read, it was mostly someone imagining what spending time with me would be like. A lot of it was sexual in nature. There were descriptions and comments about my hair, washing it, smelling it, and something about the moonlight. A few sentences were highlighted, others were underlined. My first thought was, am I getting fired? "Do you know this guy, David Elrod?" I said. "Yes, I think so." The tall, lanky guy with thick glasses and frizzy dark blonde hair. It's the regular who comes in a couple times a week to pick up Diet Coke and medication for his mom. Late 20s and obviously socially or mentally challenged. On rare occasions, he would make small talk as I rang up his soda. Once or twice, he would linger at my register or stare at me, but I figured he was just trying to adjust his eyes or had poor social cues. Harmless compared to some of the other people I had met in Florida. So I didn't pay him any mind. Until that day in Eckerd's office. I knew he wrote the letters because of a strange encounter 2 weeks earlier. While working, he came up behind me and touched, or caressed, my hair. I had to remove it from his hands, and he apologized. Weird. No harm though, I went back to work. After telling my manager this, he informed me that the customer was going to be banned from the store, and I was being sent home while they worked out the details. What details? Confused, I walked out of the store and drove home. That day was strange. 2 hours after I got home from my non-shift at work, there was a knock on my door. I look out the window and see what resembles a SWAT team. What the hell is going on, I thought. I saw men in tactical gear with large weapons, 2 men dressed in suits, and several uniformed police. In what seemed like slow motion at the time, I opened the door. A female officer holds up a few oddly familiar letters. "Can we come in and talk to you about these?" she asked. Realizing everyone in town had probably read these letters, I wanted to pass out. "I barely even know the guy," I told them. We have a seat on my couch and she begins to speak. Out of the corner of my eye, I see my boyfriend shooting me dirty looks from the bedroom. The female officer mentions the letters from Eckhart's, explaining they went to his house to issue a trespassing notice. They wanted to speak to him directly, she says, because her whole department is already aware of David. The officers confronted him at his residence and attempted to invoke the trespassing notice. Apparently, he was not happy about this. He insisted for over 45 minutes how this was all a big mistake and how I wanted to talk to him. He was combative and persistent. Because of that, they decided to pursue stalking charges. "Stalking charges?" I asked. She continues, "You need to be aware that David killed and partially dismembered his mother when he was 12 years old. He was released from a juvenile psychiatric facility less than 4 years ago. We found disturbing materials at his home," she continued. "We believe he's been stalking you." My mind was completely wandering at this point. David was arrested the next day for stalking me after he was found waiting in the Eckhart's parking lot. But the last official word was he went back to the psychiatric hospital, at least temporarily. I didn't have the chance to read the letters in full before they were entered into some vault of evidence, nor did they ever explain what they actually found at his house. So, I never had the complete picture of what was happening. My boyfriend at the time was a huge stick about the whole thing, so I moved back to Oregon a week later. Besides, who wants to hang around when Norman Bates is fixated on you? It was Christmas time. My wife and I were staying at her childhood home, where her mother now lived alone. Well, not if you include the cats. The house was on a quiet cul-de-sac in the suburbs. If you're picturing freshly mowed lawns, American flags, and empty sidewalks, you're picturing it right. It's a single-story home with an attached garage out front. The garage has 2 doorways apart from the electric garage door, of course. One leads to the garden and backyard. This had an old doggy door from their days with their dear old Max. Rest in peace, Max, that they covered with a piece of nailed-in wood. That had always made me slightly uncomfortable before, but I figured it had been that way for years, so what's the worst that could happen? The second door leads to the kitchen. It could stop a mouse, but not much else. Definitely not something that wanted in, or someone. We were asleep in my wife's childhood bedroom at the front of the house. 3 a.m. I was in that deep, dark recess of sleep. Then I heard it, the scream. "What are you doing?" It was my mother-in-law's voice echoing down the hallway. To me, lost in a sea of sleep, it sounded like a jet engine roaring past my eardrum. I bolted up. What happened next happened in a matter of seconds. But about that scream, even though I was dead asleep, I heard enough of it to sense an urgency behind it. This wasn't an "oh, you scared me" type of scream. This was different, and I knew it. Not consciously, but the lizard part of my brain, that piece we retained from our primitive ancestors, knew something was wrong. I watch and read a fair amount of true crime, and this scream awakened that horrible fear. The one that says, "This can't really be happening to me, can it?" Honestly, at that time of night, it sounded like someone was about to be murdered. You ever wonder if you're a fight or flight type of individual? I always have, and I came to know something about myself after this night. I'm a fighter, because I leaped out of bed and growled. Yes, I growled in the manliest voice I could muster. I'm going to kill you. And I took off running. I tore open the bedroom door and ran into the hallway. There, at the end, I saw my mother-in-law. Nightgown on, look of utter shock on her face. She was standing completely still. We make eye contact as I continue toward her, and she turns her head and looks directly into the kitchen. I hurry past her and round the corner into the kitchen. The hollow core door is obliterated, with shards being scattered everywhere. I look through the open frame and see the electric garage door is open as well. I push ahead. As I run into the garage, I hear it. The sound of someone hopping into a running car just out of view. Just as I make it onto the driveway, I see a car peeling out from the sidewalk adjacent to the house. But with my adrenaline still pumping, and who am I to say no to adrenaline? Like an idiot, I run barefoot after this car. I give it a good go, but I'm no Michael Johnson, and even he couldn't catch a speeding car. It soon vanishes down the street, and I'm left all alone. The police showed up within 3 minutes, which I have to say, makes me feel a lot more at ease with my mother-in-law living there. They took our statements. My mother-in-law said she heard a noise, the hollow core door being kicked in, and walked into the kitchen where she encountered a burglar. A small framed woman. The police theorized she was working as part of a team. Her job was to squeeze through the doggy door, kick in the hollow core, and open the electric garage door for her accomplice. According to the police, the burglars most likely thought nobody was home. Fortunately, my mother-in-law must have caught her off guard and scared her, in addition to my manly growl, of course. But it feels good to know that everyone was safe, and to learn that I guess I've got a little fight in me. And for the record, we bought the heaviest goddamn wooden door you've ever seen to replace that hollow core. I'd like to see a mouse try and get through that. This was only 2 years ago. In our town, there was this one house that had been abandoned for, I think, about 2 decades. It was an older place nestled away in the trees, and after nobody would buy it, everyone just forgot about it. It slowly got covered up by the woods and left to rot. I was always interested in these types of places and loved to explore them. And one random afternoon, I had off work. That's exactly what I did. I walked there with a small backpack and a flashlight. Usually I'd go with friends, but this house was so close by and seemed less significant than other places we'd been to, so I didn't bother. The driveway going into the woods was almost completely gone. Grass had grown over the gravel. I marched my way through it, eventually taking my flashlight out so I could see better. The house was deeper into the woods than I'd remembered. I felt like I walked for 5 or 6 minutes before getting there. It was an old wooden home built before garages were even a thing. I guess it kind of looked like a large 2-story cabin. I walked up to one of the front windows, which was broken, and leaned my head through it. I listened to the inside for 30 seconds to make sure I was alone. Then, after hearing nothing, I went to the front door. The door was unlocked and already slightly cracked open, so I just pushed it wide open and walked in. The inside was decaying all around. Disturbingly, there was still stuff in here from whoever owned it all those years ago. The living room had an old sofa all torn up and dusty, and there were several picture frames that had fallen off the walls and shattered. I walked through the first floor, looking at all the left-behind things, curious about what I'd find out about this place. The floor was small, though. After just a minute or two, I went upstairs to the second floor. The stairs were creaky and shaky, I'm surprised they hadn't caved in already. The second floor had a hallway with 2 rooms. One of the doors was open and the other was closed. I looked into the open one. The room was empty, which was strikingly different from downstairs. I stepped in and moved my flashlight all around, but was interrupted when I heard a thud below me. My heart immediately started racing. It didn't sound natural, like a noise the house would make. I hurried down the stairs and waved my flashlight all around. The house was so quiet now, and I didn't see anything moving that could have made the sound. Having that bad gut feeling, though, I told myself I should just leave. Usually with the friends I explore with, we always say at the first sign of anything sketchy, we leave. Being alone, I definitely wasn't staying. I quickly walked down the hallway, still moving my flashlight all around, but when I got to the front of the house, the door was shut. I had left it wide open. I hurried up to it and pulled the handle, but it didn't move. It was locked or bolted closed from the outside. I immediately started to panic, knowing someone else had to be here with me, and they had just locked me in. I ran over to the broken window and jumped out. I didn't see anyone as I sprinted into the woods, turning my flashlight off and staying off of the path. My heart was still racing as I walked between the trees. But then, a light came from ahead. I was confused and moved behind a tree. It was a red and blue light flickering at the end of the driveway. There were 2 cop cars cutting through the thick grass and driving toward the abandoned house. They passed by me, rushing to the front of the home as I remained hidden. Something in me knew that they weren't there for me. I watched for a minute, then ran out of the woods and back home. I don't know who else was there or why the police were rushing toward the house. I tried to find out more information on it in the coming weeks, but never found anything released to the public. Whatever was going on in there or whoever was in there must have been pretty bad. I'm lucky to be here right now.